Over here is the 2024 Nissan Juke facelift. This particular Nissan Juke is the N-design and it has the hybrid technology as well. It does cost only 36,000 euros, which makes me wonder, is this the best crossover SUV out there? Let's talk about it. When it comes to Japanese car manufacturers, they grew thanks to crossover SUVs. Their crossover SUVs were known to be reliable, cheap to afford, and desirable. This is a curse the German car manufacturers have. They just could never build a desirable crossover SUV. The Volkswagen group have tried this. In fact, they are selling like hot cakes. They're good quality, well built, bulletproof. But then at the same time, there's just something about it that just doesn't seem desirable, if you know what I'm saying, compared to this Nissan Juke. And then there are other competitors like Ford Europe and Opel. Now Opel has been taken over by Stellantis, and ever since this happened, they slipped into a big identity crisis, although their crossover SUVs are cheap to afford. Ford Europe, again, they have a bit of a conflicting thing going on. The brand is American, but the models here in Europe are very German, so it's like they have this mix going on. Whereas when it comes to the Renault-Nissan alliance, they are going places. You get parking sensors at the front and at the rear, and as part of this facelift, the grille has seen some interesting changes. You get keyless entry for both front doors. Now it should be remarked that the Nissan doors tend to be very light for some reason, and I've noticed this with all of their cars. On the positive side, this means good fuel economy because the vehicle is lighter. But on the other hand, it makes me wonder, like, does this compromise the quality a bit? Now putting the rear door handle above makes it look like it's a coupe from certain angles. It looks good, but when it comes to practicality, it can be a bit conflicting. You see, it's not a system I'm a fan of, but it does look nice nonetheless. Another little problem I just noticed is that despite all the fancy lights at the front, the LEDs, the rear lights look dated. I mean, looking at this, I feel like I'm stuck in the early 2010s or something. There's something a bit ironic I noticed. Given that this is the N-design, so it's an upper trim level, you get those interesting alloys, 5 spokes, right? They're really nice to look at. But then, between the awesome body paint and the alloys, why do you have this hard plastic over here? It's a bit conflicting. Now approaching the interior, this is where things get very interesting. In fact, this is where I see there have been massive improvements. The biggest change really for this facelift would be the screen size. It has increased, and that too, there's something about the interior that just looks more revised compared to before. Not about the facelift necessarily, but about this whole generation in particular, because when the first generation Nissan Juke came out, it was a hit. It was something funky, but it was painfully budget. So there's nothing about the car that would signify premium or something. But in this Nissan Juke, they have stepped up big time. Already I see a little problem though. The steering wheel is pleasant to hold on to. It's one of the best steering wheels ever. It's nice, but the size seems a bit too big. This is something I've noticed about Nissan Qashqai and their small crossovers in general. They tend to give oversized steering wheels. You can adjust the steering wheel up, down, in and out. This is the inmost setting though. And the size of the steering wheel, maybe it's too big, but at least you get a nicer view of the instrument cluster, which is decent. And the instrument cluster is digital, thank goodness for that. Now, the way they put the infotainment system controls up here, it could be a reference to Infiniti, because I know in some Infiniti cars, where at least during the 2010s, they always put the infotainment system controls right next to the screen itself, like up here. So I don't know if they still do this, because the Infiniti no longer sells in the EU market, at least not here in Belgium. Now, climate controls are nicely detailed down there. This is good. Heated seats. Wow, this is just what I need. Automatic transmission. This is good. Driving mode over here. 2 cup holders of fixed sizes with this carbon effect. It's plastic. One thing I like is this leather wrapping over here. It's squidgy, it's pleasant, and it signifies a bit of premium. And then you get this fabric touch over here. That's good. I'm impressed. No glasses holder. Oh my goodness. Are you seeing this? Those lights look so outdated. It looks like something you'd expect from the 90s. What? This is interesting, because you look down here, you see massive improvements. You feel like you're in year 2024, but looking up here at those lights, it's like as if I'm in 2004 or something, 2014. Anyways, central console storage is so narrow, but it doesn't matter. it's good otherwise. Glove box is very interesting because from the surface it looks big, but then as you open it, it's just a bit narrow. But it doesn't matter. It gets the job done. That's good. Now you don't get any sunroof, panoramic roof. This is something I forgot to remark earlier. You get automated front windows, but the rear windows are not automated, and their buttons are very small or something. In fact, I did not know these were rear buttons at first glance. The door handle has this interesting look to it. It has this touch of chrome, which had me thinking it's fabric, but then it's just plastic. Otherwise, the door itself has this leather wrapping, which is good. The door bin is short, but it can fit a big bottle. Well, at least I think it can. Now, seating adjustment is not electric, it's manual, but it's fine. Now it's time to check out the rear seats of the Nissan Juke. Now, one thing I really like is how the seats are like a sofa. It is so good. I sit on it and I felt like I was sitting on a couch. Knee room is decent. It's not making contact with the driver's seat, although it can depend on the seating adjustment. My leg room is good, although my shin I feel would be too close to the driver's seat and the front passenger seat, but that's not the issue. The headroom is good despite the coupe-like design of this Nissan Juke, but the headrest is a bit like a brick wall, a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. I look at the back seats, I look at the back of the driver's seat and the front seat passenger. I don't see any pocket at all. There's nothing to be seen. And you get a micro storage space down there and a charging port. There's no armrest, and the door is just hard plastic. Okay, although you do get a touch of leather. Now it's time to check out the boot space of the Nissan Juke. This is where things get very interesting, because when it comes to the Renault-Nissan alliance, they tend to be very interesting about their practicality solutions. Sometimes they have something, sometimes they just don't. And as suspected, I already spotted something I love. The first thing is that you get the adjustable boot floor, which is very good and handy. Putting it up here makes it very easy to load luggages in and out. But then there's already a problem I noticed. There's no 12-volt sockets to be seen, and there's no tether point anywhere. Nope, nowhere to be seen. Well, underneath you have some repair kit, which is good. And the boot lip is good, but just be careful about the body paint. Otherwise, it should be fine in long terms. So here's my conclusion of this Nissan Juke 2024 facelift N-design. For a price of 36,000 euros, if you are looking for a funky crossover SUV, this is probably the car for you, because that's the best thing about it. The funkiness, the design. It looks like something that does not scream budget. It reminds the public you just bought something interesting, right? Is it the best crossover SUV out there though? That's the big question. To be honest, the design is the only thing that really sticks out, and so is the equipment list. The equipment list was quite decent for the interior. But then on the other side of the scale, if we're talking about practicality solutions, this is where I feel the Nissan Renault tend to lag behind the Volkswagen Group and Stellantis. The Volkswagen Group and Stellantis do offer one of the best and most interesting practicality solution and a more interesting design, like especially Stellantis. I know they like to make their cars look premium at a cheaper price tag as well. Well, not cheaper, but similar price tag, and it looks premium, right? Then, like other Japanese crossover SUVs, there's one thing that remains exceptional for this Nissan Juke, and that remains exceptional for it compared to other competitors: the reliability. Honestly, Japanese reliability remains true, and if there's a problem, you get their reliable customer service and their reliable warranty. But then coming back to the facelift of the Nissan Juke, and then when talking about the facelift Qashqai, which I reviewed months ago, I said this about the Qashqai, and I think I'll say this about the Juke. Both cars look stunning. They look like they belong to today's generation, but there's just some parts of it, and there's something about their equipment list that feels a bit stuck in time, if you know what I'm saying. Because everybody has moved on now. Some have implemented huge touchscreens, which thank goodness Nissan hasn't done. But then they have interesting infotainment systems as well, or some infotainment, or they have interesting interior designs. And this is something Nissan has sort of refused to do. They've kind of stayed a bit basic in that regard. But then on the other side of the scale, to be fair, they are not alone doing this. It's Toyota as well, who's also gone down this path, and so has Honda. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos that are on the run. I will see you all next time.